Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It's me, Steve Hall, and over there is Pascal Floor in the vest. You're not a bit chilly?
Yeah, but I'm drinking my tea, and I have my. It's like this is how I imagine some women to actually go into menopause, like to have experiences or periods where they are experiencing extreme heat, and then also times where it's just like super cold, and this is how I feel like at the moment.
It's all the potatoes in the furnace right now.
That is true. That is, buddy, let me tell you this. Here over the past days, this is also something that I sent over to you, right? That one night where I said like, holy shit, now that you are in that state of having dieted for a longer period of time and also being a little bit leaner, I'm always eating then a bigger bolus of potatoes right now because I'm taking a diet break, and we will get to that in a second, why that is the case. But holy shit, like an hour after I've eaten those potatoes, I'm boiling hot, and also overall it's just like veins are popping out already. It's not that I'm super lean. I'm definitely not as lean as I've been like the last time I went into the contest prep, like 2017. But yeah, I can already see some veins popping here and there, and it's cool. This is kind of motivational, and it's kind of a bummer then that I'm actually needing to take a diet break. So one was planned, and then I needed to extend it by another week, and maybe even turn it into a prima phase. But yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about it already now.
We can, because it's really interesting. I'll let you talk about it a bit more, but I was looking over, like, just, you get in your own head sometimes. I was looking over my plan, and I was like I'm ahead of schedule, and like, do I really have that much weight to lose? Do I really want to be like doing another mesocycle of dieting? Do I want to go through like a maintenance period now, but then am I going to be too early, too soon? And like, I was just like fiddling things. And if anything, I just worked out that maybe I'm at best ahead of schedule by a month. And like, what am I going to do in that month? An extra few weeks of maintenance, slow down my rate of loss, like fine, that's not a problem. It'll be more of an issue if I was a month behind. But yeah, we'll go through, because I think even you are like, you're saying how it's kind of almost forced upon you as sort of a primer phase now. I think it is certainly not a bad thing to kind of break up your kind of prep now, because there's still people who are competing at similar times to us, who I know I like just keep up to date with a few people on Instagram who haven't started prep yet or are just starting. So it kind of makes you think like, well, it's not so bad if you take a month break now or something.
Exactly what I've been thinking as well. And so I think it's very important to give a little bit of context. I mean, everyone who's tuning in on a weekly basis knows where we're at the moment somewhat. Also, the ones who are on our membership side, they have the entire story. So what we do with macros, what we do with our training split, where we at in regards to the entire body composition. But just to give a little bit of a background, so I've been dieting since the beginning of November. You started in December. Is that correct?
I've been dieting like 11 weeks at the end of this week.
I had one diet break that was also kind of forced, but also it was really kind of forced, because that was the time when I was very, very sick. And so I've been dieting since November. I have been sick now for the 5th time. I got sick this last week in just this time frame, which is nuts. I think I've never in my life been so often sick in such a short period of time. Probably it has a lot to do with, of course, being in a caloric deficit, which is a major stressor, and also training alongside with that. We know from the scientific literature by now that it actually reduces your I totally forgot that now.
Immune system.
Immune system, exactly. And furthermore, I have 2 kids at home, especially Hugo, who's in the kindergarten, who comes home, who's always sick. I mean, you can't, you cannot avoid getting sick. I really tried. I very, very much tried. This is kind of a hard thing to say, but I even tried to not kiss Hugo and said like, okay, you're sick, mama is sick, so you guys can actually cuddle, but me and Tony, we can't cuddle at the moment. So I really try my very best to stay fresh and recovered, but I couldn't. So this last week, it really caught up on me. I really tried my very best with vitamin C. So basically the entire thing that you were also recommending taking from examine.com. So garlic, vitamin C, glutamine, and what else is there?
Zinc,
exactly. And it didn't help. So I even took a deload, diet break, and this supplementation, and I still feel like, okay, it's creeping up on me. So that's why I decided to take another week of a diet break, another week of a kind of a deload. I mean, I still started to train hard in the beginning of the week, but then I quickly realized, okay, that's not a good idea. So I took another deload this week. And then from next week onwards, if I don't feel better by Saturday, I will definitely then go into a primer phase where I'm just not really a primer phase, but more so because I've been deloading now for 2 weeks, then more like a short maintenance phase of maybe like another 2 weeks of just lower volume or training, just trying to be at MV and be at maintenance calories as well, so that I then had like 4 weeks of maintenance calories and to then get back into the caloric deficit. And it's like you said, I mean, so yeah, everyone is always talking about you want to be ready early, but how early is early, right? So you don't want to be ready early, like, I don't know, 2 months too early, because we know that being in that state for too long of a time is a huge strain on your entire system, also psychologically. And thus, you want to be ready on time, and you want to be, in a perfect scenario, ready early, but not too early. And this is something where this comes into play, where we are so emotionally invested ourselves that it's so easy to miss the forest for the trees. The forest for the trees, because I was actually like, I don't want to actually take a primer phase now. But considering that I've already been dieting since November, considering I've lost already 10 kilograms, and considering we still have 24 weeks before our first show, this is, so many people don't even start at 24 weeks. And just taking that into consideration, I think we have plenty of time. And it also just is a good relief for the body and the entire system. I think that, just to take a break every once in a while, if you have the luxury to do and doing so. But at the same time, of course, it's a little bit of a psychological thing because you just want to get lean now. And especially when you're then seeing like, okay, veins starting to pop here and there. And so it is kind of an ambivalent state anyway, but I think that is always the case when it comes to something like diet breaks in general. At least that's the thing for me. I'm getting more or better and better at actually accepting that this is a beneficial thing, but at the same time, it's still a little bit of a challenge. And this is where I am at the moment. And I think that this is also then where you will be at when the time comes for a primer phase, that the time allows for it, and why not then take it? Because probably you will get yourself in a better position to maybe still be early or ready early, but not too early.
Yeah, what do I have? I was literally, I have a quote. It's, there we go. I was just reminding myself of it. It's better to be over-rested than under-rested. The same goes for skipping deloads, rest days. It's always better to be over-rested than under-rested. So I think that just goes without saying with the, like, I call them primer phases, maintenance phases are the, like, underrated tool for successful, like, nutritional periodization for physique competitors. Yeah. And what we kind of, a lot of competitors will go from maybe high teens all the way down to like 5% body fat, sorry. Whereas we're much more of the kind of impression that it's better to get a chunk of that off, then try and reduce some of the diet fatigue that you've accumulated, get down to like low teens / like 10%, lower end of your settling point, and then hold, recover somewhat, and then dig. And that is something, like, we've said it so many times, yet still as I'm practicing it, I'm like, am I getting ready too early? What am I doing? And it's because I think, because I'm going to be, because I'm basically a month behind you, so I'll be taking an extended primer in a month basically, or just over like 6 weeks or so. That will then, by the end of my primer phase, I'll be like, 10 weeks out from my first show, and it just seems crazy to think, oh, I'm just dieting for 10 weeks for a show. But you forget, like, I'm in somewhat a prep-ish state during that maintenance period, and probably during this last month of dieting. It's kind of like it's a pre-prep, but it's kind of the prep.
So are you taking 2 primer phases?
So what I have planned is basically next week is a diet break. So I'm overreaching now, deload next week. So I'll be taking a week maintenance with my deload, and then I'll be dieting again for probably 5 weeks, maybe 4, depending if I find I have to deload a week early or something. And then that's the point at which I have planned in basically like 6 weeks or more of maintenance.
Okay.
And I'll be around, I have estimated to be around 175 pounds, so about 5 pounds down from where I am now. And I'm not sure, like, I'm still looking at my physique and I'm like, how much do I have to lose from this point? Like, do I really have 20 pounds to lose? And in some areas of my physique, you look at me and be like,
in a positive sense or negative sense? Are
more
you
so
doubting
like I'm,
that?
More so thinking I'm early, so positive more than anything.
Oh, that's good. That's good,
like,
actually.
In some ways, I'm looking at my physique and I'm like, whoa, like, I'm seeing muscle separation in my legs now, and like the glutes from the side are coming in a bit, and I'm like, I don't want to be like ready to like the too lean too early scenario. So yeah, it's just you get in your own head, and like I talked to Charlotte about it and I bore her to death, and she's like, you wrote out a plan, just stick to the, like, what is the plan? Okay. And I'm like,
it's good that you actually have someone on your side who is like that straightforward, because she could
very
be
straightforward.
Like, I don't know, that emotional being as well. Like, yeah, you don't have to go through something like that. Eat something. You don't look healthy now, right? I mean, it could be that way, but I mean, she went through 2 preps already together with you. Yeah. So
it's just, what I'm envisioning is I want to avoid what I did last time where I was too lean too early.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a negative. I just think I ended up being, I could have had more time massing, or I didn't need to diet for quite as long. I'm trying to avoid that. And I thought I had. It's just whether or not I'm actually more muscular than I have like planned, because I have planned to get down as lean as I was, or to a body weight that I was last time. But it's like, well, if I gained quite a bit more muscle, do I even need to get as low as that? And I was like, maybe to get as lean as last time, I only need to be like 170 pounds, which is a significant amount more muscle. But I don't know. It's kind of just me going back and forth and being that emotional being. Yeah. And the crux of it is I'll diet for another month, then I'll maintain probably for like 6 weeks, or maybe a little bit more. It depends on like how things are looking. I'll probably enter, what I was thinking is like, that's a long time to be maintenance volume. I was like, probably the first 3 weeks, I'll just ramp volume up, because I guess being at maintenance calories, I can probably do productively more volume and maybe get a bit of muscle tissue back if I lost any, which I don't think I probably have. And then the last 3 weeks, just drop it right down to set myself up for then like 20 weeks till the UK finals, if I make finals, because we could be saying all this and I might not even get to that point, but hopefully. So yeah,
funny enough, I have it the other way around as you. I'm just like in a constant doubt of like, okay, is 10 kilograms even enough to actually be in shape? I don't know. I mean, 10 kilograms is a lot, and especially like at the later stages of prep, I think that probably somewhere around 74 kilograms, I will already start to look quite good, I would assume. But yeah, once again, we had that discussion like last week with the loose skin, and that is definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration. And someone even commented like, even if you are lean, you don't look like you are that lean because of that loose skin, because the muscles don't really push against the skin, or they can't, simply because the skin is just too loosely on that in that area. And this is something that Mike even talked about. So Mike Isertel, where he had like one guy was holding on to so much fluid because in the intercellular space, and then all of a sudden they put him on a diuretic and he was lean to the teeth. All right, so I don't know. And funny enough, so when I shared that like the last week, my concerns and also that psychological thing that I've experienced here for a very long time now, ever since the age of 14. So more than half of my life, I was dealing with the loose skin. We always think that we are on our own with those issues. And in reality, there's probably always someone out there who can either relate to that, or who has gone through similar things, or who can even help you. And so many people even reached out and also commented. And it's so massively appreciated to know that someone is out there, or not just someone, but many people are out there who understand how I feel in that situation and what it may look like as well. Because so many people, there was one comment, and shout out to Chain Song, my man, who I blocked now over on YouTube, who always, so I didn't block him because of that comment, but because he's always coming on to just troll. He once trolled me for my English skills, which are, I know, absolutely awful as someone who is not a native speaker, right?
And they're good for a non-native speaker.
Yeah, exactly. And this time it was due to the loose skin that these are first world problems, that someone should go into a kid's hospital for cancer. Yes, I know it is kind of a first world problem, but nonetheless, it's a problem for that individual, and we can't really just base our problems on the problems of other people who have it maybe worse. That's not how it works. Someone who's earning 2,000 Swiss francs or what it is in Switzerland and lives there, it is probably not a lot of money to actually have a good living there, right? And they would deem maybe poor in that country. However, with that financial freedom in another country, they would be deemed as very wealthy or so, right? So in one country, it may be an issue, in another country, not. It is also always caused by something like your environment as well, and where you grew up and all that kind of stuff. And thus, it's a typical fallacy and flawed way of thinking. And when we think about something like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we always bring up, problems are problems. For other individuals, they have different problems because they are in a different level of that hierarchy of needs, right? So you can't really compare that with another. And but anyway, I really loved that other people then reached out and said like, okay, I can really relate. I know how you feel because I feel the same way. And for this, I'm so massively appreciative, like honestly. And knowing this will also help me, I think, even more to just accept it and go through prep with this.
And I think sharing is so powerful. I know, like, whenever I've shared, like, even just sharing my journey as someone who is not one of the, like, genetically elite or anything, people kind of, because they can relate to you and then they really kind of like that. And whenever you're vulnerable, it always goes down so well. And there's not many people willing to do it. So if you're willing to do that, I think that's a great thing, and you're helping so many people just by talking through it. And the only way I can relate to it, and it just came into my head, is that I'm really not looking forward to when, and I'm going to say if, and touch the table, edema starts kicking in for me, because that fucks with my head. In some ways, it might be similar to the loose skin, because it's like something I can't even control. I'm just like, what is this thing? And it's hiding some definition and things. So hopefully it won't happen. I don't know exactly why it happens. I think it's due to stress, dieting, but
no, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for you, this is a problem, right? And I think it would be unfair to say like, okay, this is not really a problem because someone else is starving in Africa or so.
It's all relative, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is in your situation, based on your environment and based on your also past and all that kind of stuff. This is a problem for you at the moment. And no one can say that one problem is more severe than the other. Yes, you know, on a global scale, you can possibly objectively rate that, but who is then rating that, right? There will always be a subjective component to it, and I don't think that it is fair to just like downplay the issues of someone who has, I don't know, depression is on a quick increase and raise in Western society. Would you say like, okay, depressed people don't really have a problem because someone else, I don't know, has some I don't know. In Vietnam, they need to live in poverty or so.
I understand when people use the argument, but I still think it's wrong, like you said, to mean that, oh, you can't ever feel bad or down about anything because your problems are never as bad as this individual's. And yeah, having perspective is great, and that sometimes can help loosen your worries or your woes, but they're still worries and woes for you. And if you just downplay them all the time, then you feel bad for feeling bad, and then that just makes the whole situation even worse.
Absolutely.
So I completely agree with where you're coming from. And I think, yeah, the exciting thing, the thing I've realized, I woke up this morning, I was like, it's Thursday already. It's like every week is just vanishing at the moment. I'm just like, wow. Like, look at us both. If you look at our peak off season and look at us now, people are just like, Steve, when the fuck did you get so lean? And like, if you were sharing more, I think it would be the exact same. And I'm sure people in your environment, if there's like people you see regularly, they're probably like, Pascal, when did your face just suddenly get like chiseled?
Yeah, but the problem is it's winter time, right? So when I was, where was it? When I was for the Bristol shooting, when I was just like, when we've been there, recorded a lot of video stuff, we were just like, of course, packed in winter clothing. And until we actually then taking off our clothing, that was the time where then Harry actually realized like, oh guys, you actually lost a bunch of weight, right? And yeah.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description.
I'm really glad we did that shoot once we'd lost weight, because my face looks so much better when it's leaner.
Yeah, mate. It's so funny because Katie likes me also when I'm a little bit bigger. Well, she actually prefers that, I would say. She doesn't really like or want to tell me that, like straight to my face. Oh, no, she tells me that she prefers me when I'm actually bigger. But the thing is that I myself, I prefer it so much more when my face is lean. I don't know what it is, but that moony face, simply not mine.
I agree. And I was like looking at myself even on my iPhone when I was doing a story, and I was like, my eyes look like they've grown like double in size. It's just like everything else has just got smaller. So yeah, it's a funny one, but I think the reason I brought up the time thing is like it will be here in no time. Yeah. And I always have to remind myself when you think about how long people prep for, and it sounds like a long time, and it sounds like we're setting ourselves up really early, but you consider like 1 pound of weight loss is pretty typical in the beginning of a prep, but towards the end, you might see a pound weight loss over a month. Like you're seeing very minimal changes. You're looking at like 0.25% loss a week. You can't even measure it. Like a lot of the time, water weight fluctuations are larger. So like you can inbuild, and I think the fact is we both probably inbuilt a buffer. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that will mean we don't have to do anything extreme and risk anything. But the thing we're kind of painting a picture of is there is a bit of like chess going on. There is like something to balance. It's not just like just throw out like just an idea and just like diet and it will just work out. It's like, no, we're actually being very methodical because we know once you get into a zone, that's like danger zone, and you have to be smart at how you navigate that. And I think some people are just on the kind of side of, oh, it's just calories in, calories out. You can just diet down. It doesn't really matter. But when you're paying, like trying to get down to 5% body fat, retain all your muscle, not be in a stress state, there's a limited period of time where you look your best, which is really cool because we have a lot of shows around the similar period of time. And I'm hoping that both of us feel pretty good, that we're very willing to like fly to like Ireland. We just saw there was a qualifier there, and the week after the UKDFBA finals is the WMBF in Germany. And I'm like, well, if like I should feel good, and if anything, I'll be like in my recovery diet maybe, or in a bit of a reverse. I can go do that with Pascal, like, and I just hope I don't feel like dog shit where I'm just like, no, I don't want to do anything. I really want to be in the mindset of doing as much as possible.
I very much like the analogy or kind of the comparison to chess, because sorry for that. In the end, you have to be strategic about the entire process, and you need to think ahead of time, because you can't just like go by feel, because otherwise you end up not making it on time, or you make it actually too early, and then you actually have like detrimental moves ahead of you, where you're then sacrificing a lot of your players on the field. So I really like that. And the thing is that we also need to take into consideration like these 24 weeks that lie ahead of us. That is not like 24 weeks until the last show. That is 24 weeks to the first show. And it could very well be that like, okay, first show, you look good, but not absolutely like the very best. And especially for someone like you, right? I'm not having high hopes of actually making 2 national finals or worlds or something like that. But for someone like you who actually sets that as his goal, I think you should take that into consideration, that the peaking actually happens when you are doing the finals and maybe even worlds, and not before. And this is something like, I don't know, something like football game or so, where the entire season is ahead of you. And well, yes, the early matches are important, right? Thing is, though, that you can lose a match here and there. That is totally all right. But the later you're getting down the line, and especially when it comes to those matches where it's just like one match or one game or 2 games, and that is all that counts, you can't make any kind of mistakes. And this is then where it counts and where you have to bring the package, and especially at the finals where there's only like 1 game. And if you're not on point on that match day, then you will not take the trophy at home. And I'm not speaking about the literal trophy that you're taking with you at home, but more so like the package that you're bringing to stage.
Yeah, it's I was even looking at it, I was like, I'd planned it, like you said, to not be quite my best for finals, for qualifier in August, then have 2 months until finals, of which diet for one of those, and then kind of reverse into finals would be the ideal scenario. And maybe do some shows in the meantime during that period of time where I'm in very good, like, I'm like thinking I'm just going to be stage ready for the like August show, where I'm like legally shredded, as I think Eric Helms has put it, but not like glutes in from the rear. No, not there. So yeah, that's the plan. But chess is actually a really good analogy. I don't know what chess enough, but like you said, you have to think moves ahead. And then sometimes I know in chess, like the best move you make is the one you don't make. So that also comes into it. You just have to, you need the time to be able to make the decisions like, I'm not going to make a push here because that might be the wrong call, and you can hold for a week and kind of maybe there is stress that comes off or something like that. So yeah, I think it's exciting.
Yeah, and one more thing, I think that it is very, very important. This is something that I've done in many of my updates here this week, that I mentioned that I'm sick. It's not a narcissistic move where I just want to talk about myself, but it's hopefully a good takeaway for them to realize that sometimes, and especially that holds true when you are a coach, you need to sometimes do what is required, even though that you don't like it. So, for example, with me, I would have rather liked to stay in a caloric deficit, but how beneficial would have been? Not that much, but there was once again, we are always falling back to that rational and emotional state. And in that situation, it was just like, yeah, the right choice is to actually take a diet break and a prolonged deload, and also then planning in something like diet breaks here and there, right? But also not getting ahead of time and ahead of schedule to be then ready early on time. But more so, sometimes it's just like, okay, even though that you would prefer to do something else, you have to then do the contrary. Especially that is especially the hard part when you are self-coaching yourself, basically, because yeah, the emotional state is always there, and that is like a devil's and angels play on your shoulders. One shoulder or the devil says like, okay, you're just pushing through, and the angel says like, no, you should take the diet break. This is where it's then becoming harder and harder, especially like later down the line, where you're so much in that tunnel vision that you also need probably like later down the line.
Yeah, I think it's why for us, I'm assuming you're going to be self-coached all the way to stage, and I'm still kind of not sure. I got to make the decision relatively soon because I don't want to be like contacting someone and be like, I'm 8 weeks out, coach me, because I'm in a super stressed position. It's sorry to anyone who's ever done that to a coach, and sorry to that coach, because it's not a nice position to be in. You want to reach out to a coach when you're many months out. So I'm not by any means saying that I would reach out to someone like a month out from stage or something. And if I don't, I will be relying on a circle of people. I'll certainly be consulting with yourself, consulting with other people on like the Revive Stronger coaching team. And then if there's like other people like Mike, I know I can reach out to him and he can give me some words of wisdom, and probably maybe Eric Helms. He might even like put aside some time to have a chat with him. And I think we're very fortunate we can do that. But I don't think there's many people that are in that position where they have so many people in their circle that they can rely on to give them good advice. So I think that's why, having a coach through those stages keeps you a bit more rational, or we keep each other a little bit more rational.
Yeah. And also here, something I want to bring up, because I don't know how many people are aware of that. We bring it up, like sometimes mentioning that, but I don't think that people are truly listening to that. I do basically ask Steve all the time what to do in this scenario, especially now that I'm dieting. I would, once again, this is like that the devil is whispering into my ear like, no, you need to push through. And this is the time where I then actually just run my thoughts to Steve, and he's basically then either confirming my beliefs or what I have planned, or says like, okay, take a look from a more rational perspective here, put on your coaching hat, what do you have to, yada, 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 whatever it is, right? Steve keeps me massively accountable here. And I think it's very important, because when people are then saying like, yeah, you're coaching yourself, right? That doesn't mean that you need to do all of the decisions yourself. You can actually ask for advice from someone else without having them as a coach, for example. And this is also where we have our membership side, where when people are coaching themselves and they don't have a coach, this is the perfect place to then ask a question, because everyone is actually kind of quite invested into training, nutrition. They have a fundamental good knowledge. This is the perfect place to actually also ask questions like these there. And if you don't have a coach, if you don't have the membership side, I mean, I have Steve, and that is so helpful, because both times when I was on the edge of like, okay, what should I do? Reach out to Steve, and he just gave me the confirmation of, okay, it's either a right decision or I would reconsider your approach.
Yeah, it's actually ridiculously invaluable to have that connection with one another, and so easily, just like you tell me what you're thinking and I can give you a actual rational yes or no. And likewise, I know whenever I voice something to you, some ideas, some thoughts, and then you just put me like straightforwardly say something, I'm just like, oh man, I feel 10 times better now. And you just stop overthinking things. So yeah, it's actually invaluable. So like we say we're self-coached, but that's like with some help along the way from each other. Yeah.
It's not truly self-coach, because when you're in doubt, you still have someone on your side. And this is basically what a coach always does. Yeah. He keeps you in check, and he keeps you like following the goal and not deviating too drastically from that.
The number of competitors I've had of just being like, they're just like, thanks so much for just like being there. And I'm just like, I'm not really doing anything. I'm just going like, I hear you out. This is what we're doing. Like, it's okay. This is very normal. And they're just like, just hearing you say that is just, relieves my stress like nothing. And I'm just like, oh yeah. And when I compete, I know that.
Yeah. And I always try to bring that across to every one of my athletes and saying like, you can talk to me no matter what it is. Reach out to me if you feel shitty, if you are in doubt about something, if you're concerned about something. Reach out to me, communicate that with me, because otherwise it is very, very hard to actually cope with that yourself. And this is something that I had to learn the hard way myself as well. I was always that type of guy who didn't want to actually get the help of others, not because I didn't, or not because of my ego, but more so because I didn't want to put a burden on them. I didn't want to bother them with my problems, where it was like, I'd rather try to overcome it myself. And probably this has something to do with how I grew up, that I needed to take care of myself like very, very early on. And probably a little bit of trust issues and getting shit done then from other sides. It's just the saying of like, if you want to get shit done, do it yourself. But in that instance, I don't think that this is the best approach. sure, there's a likelihood that you can overcome these things and that you are more focused when you do take care of these things yourself. However, there's also an increased likelihood that you are just like, I don't know, get caught up in a tangle downwards and a downward spiral because of your, I don't know, negative thoughts or so, because you believe that you can take on more than you actually can. And I think it's just important to actually communicate with someone. And this is also where clinical psychology most of the time is founded on. And that is like the patient talks just for 90% of the time. They just talk. They talk and talk and talk because people are, and I brought it up in the past already, people are super bad at thinking, but they are great in speaking or talking. Once you're speaking things out loudly for yourself or to someone else, often you already feel such a relief and you feel better. And most of the time you then have the ability to then objectively make better decisions yourself.
Gives you clarity, so much clarity. I absolutely agree. And one thing I just want to point out, and we probably can then move on to questions, was what I'm not and what we're not saying is like, if we're not a coach of yours, don't like just badger us being like, oh, you said we could reach out to you because this is going to help us in our contest prep. I don't mean this in a horrible way, but the unfortunate thing is it will stress you out more if you've reached out to someone and you're waiting on them. But if they have no obligation to be helping you, don't expect them to come back. And in addition to that, if they don't know your situation, me and Pascal talk to each other like on a daily basis, basically. We know what's going on with one another. But if someone reached out to me and they're like 6 weeks out and I'm like, you've been dieting for 20 weeks. I have no idea what's going on in that time. Even if I had the time to help you, I can't give you the best help. So it has to be someone who knows you well and like you can objectively appreciate that they're invested in you, and maybe they're a coach, maybe they're a friend. But if they're just some random guy that like is jacked and has got shredded before, don't expect them to get back to you and don't expect great advice. But likewise, the worst I've ever seen is when people have coaches, especially contest prep coaches, and they reach out to them and they're like, they don't get a response for like a week. A week in contest prep, fuck me. I'd be losing my shit if I'd reached out to Pascal and he didn't get back to me in a week. I'd just be like, oh my God, I burnt my house down. I don't know, I did keto for a week.
No, I think, you bring up a great point there. And the thing is that, so on both aspects, you know me since like now 4 years. Each and every single day, you know my life. You know what is going on a daily basis. You know what I've been through and where I'm at in regards to training. So all the basically ups and downs, everything that has been going on. So you know the entire context behind that, right? And because of that, you can actually give a very proper answer of what to do or how to best move forward. And even then, it's just your best take on the matter, right? And then, of course, there are some people, I mean, that's why I'm always trying to send that message across to my athletes, like, don't hesitate.
Yeah.
And still, sometimes they don't want to actually reach out. And after a week, they are telling me, like, okay, this happened. It's like, shit, maybe I failed you because I didn't put it across like that you truly can reach out to me. Maybe this is something that you just thought is a saying of mine, but I truly mean that, right? Or maybe it is also because they are personalities such as I've been in the past, where it's like, I don't want to put my issues upon you and then make it your burden as well. But yeah.
Actually, a very good point. You've basically just said it. Don't expect other people to reach out to you and find out your problems. You got to tell other people. I know that's like a hard thing to necessarily do, but if you have a coach, like that should be something that you're building towards. And I think that's why developing that relationship, that rapport, so that someone feels comfortable to do that with you is so great. But should we get to questions? We could go on this topic for ages, probably.
Absolutely.
So these are questions. I can't remember what ones we actually covered, but I think we got all of the Patreon ones, didn't we? So we did pre-exhaust.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Okay, let me just go for this bottom one. So this is from Subjahit Ghosh. I'm going to go with that, or SG. He has asked, does chromium, I think he means like picolinate, help in carbohydrates metabolism?
I think that you've actually done a little bit more research, quotation marks, on that one, because I know that you've consulted in the past with Broderick Chavez, and that is something that you've experimented with yourself.
Yes, I was asking you to see if you had done anything in that arena, but it's something I haven't done, like you said, quote unquote research. I have looked into it a little bit. It was something I was taking for quite an extended period of time, but like half my off season, I probably took it, half of it I didn't. I don't think it's ever something you're ever going to notice, but there could potentially be some very minor improvements with glucose metabolism, insulin kind of what's it called? Partitioning towards muscle groups more so. Chromium picolinate is like found within a lot of carbohydrate foods, and so Broderick's kind of like, from his biological like brain and that perspective, he's kind of like, if you can have more of that, it should hopefully improve like glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity and all those things, and just taking a small dose daily might help. And that's like, it's like a mild glucose disposal agent in that sense. But in reality, I don't think it's like lesser effect than even creatine. And I don't think we even notice anything from creatine. And creatine actually has like multiple pretty decent effects, like studied. So I would say like, you can take a shot at it and try having it, but don't expect to ever notice anything. I haven't, because it's just another thing to have to focus on and think about. And I really struggle doing things if I can't know that there's a benefit. And like creatine, I can, like, there's enough evidence for me to be like, yeah, take creatine, and it's cheap. Whereas things like that have potentially very mild positive effects that maybe aren't very well researched, I struggle to convince myself that it's worth the stress, the hassle of remembering to do it. And I prefer just to focus on fewer things, and sometimes less is more in that sense. So yeah, that's my limited experience with chromium picolinate.
So I have no experience with that, but the only thing I want to actually throw in is two things. So first and foremost, I think that many people just expect too much of an effect of a supplement. I have it all the time that people are asking me about, like, okay, should I take creatine or not? Or I started to take creatine, but I can't really feel any kind of difference. The thing is, like, it's a supplement after all. What do you expect? It's not a steroid or so, all right? And because of that, you need to come to the realization that, okay, what are realistic outcomes here? Only because you can't feel that a supplement does something for you, unless you are deficient in some kind of a mineral or vitamin, then it boils down to the question of, like, I have a triangle. I call it the supplementation triangle. That is, like, you have in one corner, you have a cost. So how much is it actually costing to get?
Sounds like an infographic.
Yeah, I know. And I was considering, like, should I really share that before actually creating an infographic? So you have cost, you have time and effort, right? How much time and effort does it require from you to actually then take that supplement? Let's just say you need to take a supplement 6 times throughout the day, right? So we have time and effort, cost, and then effect. Right, and then you need to take into consideration, like, okay, does the supplement have a potential effect, and how strong is the evidence for that? And also then you need to take into consideration, okay, how much does the supplement cost? Then, okay, how much time and effort does it require from my end to actually take it? And then, based on where it falls in the triangle, you can make a very good judgment of whether it is worth taking or not. When the cost is very, very low, the effects and the evidence is actually pretty convincing, and the time and effort is pretty low as well. So basically, it is nearly just up in the benefits or in the effect. Then it is very much speaking for itself that it's a good consideration of taking. Whereas when it's very, very high in the price, the evidence is very low for it, the benefits, and also it requires a lot of time and effort to actually take it. maybe you want to reconsider. And in this way, you can always ask yourself, okay, is it worth to take a supplement or not? Because you then have that triangle, and you can take a look at where it falls in that triangle, and then you can actually make a very good guess or decision for yourself on actually taking it or not.
Yeah, I was looking into, it's funny, supplements have come up. I was just looking into just basic like magnesium and zinc yesterday, and I was like, so actually different, and this is very obvious, but it's not until you really look into it, it's like different forms of zinc and magnesium have different elemental amounts of zinc and magnesium. So if you're taking 200 milligrams of a zinc citrate, that's not 200 milligrams
or so.
Yeah, or of whatever it might be. It's not necessarily 200 milligrams of zinc or magnesium. It's whatever proportion of that supplement is that.
Yeah.
And then there's no actual, when you look at recommendations of dosaging, it's like, well, there's not that very many studies done on hard training like lifters. So it's like, well, we can only really just be very cautious, and kind of I generally recommend minimum amounts of some of these kind of elements that we're low on. But like supplementation in general, it's just such a small effect. You can spend so much time looking into it, and also considering like uptake. So like calcium, zinc, magnesium all kind of need to be uptaken by the same like transporter. So if you end up taking a multivitamin that has all these in, do you get little bits of each of them? Should you be taking it with a meal? It's kind of gets very convoluted and difficult. So I think you can end up spending so much time on supplementation, and it's actually just the bang per buck is so small. If you focus more on having a very wholesome, well-rounded, varied diet, you're probably securing a lot of your bets. So it's just a perspective I have, because I know a lot of people get very sold on supplementation, like, oh, this is like the cool thing. And then you see things like green powders, that's become very popular. I see a lot of people who are very kind of quite knowledgeable taking it. And I'm kind of like, well, when I've spoken to Gabrielle and Miguel about it, they've been very like, green powders are one of those ones that are just like a little bit like suspect and really aren't doing the things you think that they're doing, because a lot of the minerals and things within them need one another to be uptaken properly. So it's just, it starts getting, I think, we can get very lost within supplementation, and a lot of the time, like you said before, we miss the forest for the trees. But yeah, anyway,
absolutely.
Tangent.
And I was there myself. I was buying so many supplements. I don't even think that I was one of those extreme people who bought supplements. And I already feel, looking back in hindsight, that I bought many supplements. And now, hardly ever buy any kind of supplements except for just the typical minerals and vitamins. That's basically it. And back in the days, holy shit, did I spend much money? Shit.
Did you ever have what was the BCAA product? Extend.
Yeah. I had it so often. It
tasted very good though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like watermelon. What was it? I think it was just watermelon, right?
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah.
I actually was asking people how to flavor my dextrose recently, because I had unflavored dextrose and I was using Flav drops. But the Flav drops make the water go really like weird. Like it gives a weird texture to it. So it was disgusting. But I brought flavored creatine and that worked perfectly actually.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it was very convenient. So I was very happy that I discovered that myself rather than buying like a branded flavored dextrose, which would have been quite expensive. Should we get to another question?
Yeah, let's do that.
So Greg Stone. Oh no, wait. Did we already ask this one? I'm not sure we did answer this one. Greg Stone said, Pascal, how do you balance your priorities of being a husband and father with your personal physique goals?
Oh yeah, I read that one and I even liked it, I think, right?
Yeah. Are there any big sacrifices you have to make?
Because I really do like that question. And to be honest, and this is just me, and I know that this may not apply to everyone, but I have the luxury of working from at home. So because of that, I also have the luxury of sometimes taking time when other people couldn't. So I know that if you work office hours, for example, right, you don't have that much time available to then spend with your family. And because of that, I don't know if I'm a good person to ask that question, because I see myself as average Joe in many, many ways, but not in that one. because I just have the luxury of working from at home, and not everyone is able to do that. And because of that, or not just because of that, but also secondarily is I'm willing to get up at 5 in the morning and to start my day at 5 in the morning before everyone else is up and awake. And I know that not everyone is capable of doing so, neither are they willing to do so, but because of that, I have the time. I have the time when I want to. I don't need to make any kind of sacrifices. I am at a point in my life where I don't put a lot of stock and emphasis on socializing anymore. I know that sounds awful, right? But I have all the contacts and all the friends I need, like with someone like you. I don't need to meet them up in a bar. I'm not drinking anymore. I don't feel the urge of going out and experiencing something because I've done it for years, for a long time. With Katie, I have my best friend at my side, who's also then my partner. I have my kids. So to put it that way, from a personal perspective and personal development perspective, I'm quite a different person to the person I've been like 10 years ago. I don't think that I would have been willing to give up on those things that I had back in the days, right? But because I matured, and I think that right now, when I'm absolutely honest with myself, this was the perfect time to become a father and to meet Katie. And both she and I, when we met like 7 years ago for the first time, both she and I are saying like it was good that nothing more came out of that back 7 years ago, because both she and I, we weren't in a position where we were mature enough to actually make other things or kind of get together. We weren't really, I don't know, the person we are here today. And both she and I, we are like, okay, we want to grow old together. We want to buy a house now, or we have bought a house. We want to see our children grow up. And this is, for us, the main priority. And once again, we are best friends, right? So there's not the need or the urge to actually then meet up with other people outside of at home. Sure, it's nice. Sure, it's nice also then to see you. She's also then going to meet her friends in Magdeburg every once in a while, like every second month or so, right? But I have everything I need in my life right now around me. And I never thought that I would be at a position or in a position where I would say that, especially not now. I always hope,
very good position to be in.
Yeah, I always hoped that this time would come, but I never dreamt that it actually becomes true. And especially looking back, there were times where I was just like, I couldn't give a fuck about my life, to be honest. That's why I also didn't care about taking drugs and experimenting with them and just going wild and, I don't know, sacrificing or putting my health in a detrimental position and stuff like that, right? Because I couldn't care less. I just wanted to make some experiences and stuff. And right now, I'm in a position where I'm just like, I have so much to live for, especially like seeing my children grow up. And I know it was a long answer. I know that was probably not the answer that Greg was looking for. And once again, I don't think that I'm the right person to ask a question about sacrifices or how to balance the life when it comes to the family, because the family and everything I have right now is giving me so much joy and happiness. And this is then kind of a mutual relationship of like, okay, it gives me so much pleasure and joy, but in return, I'm able to then give it back as well. And I can't put it in other terms than like the past 2 years have been the happiest and best years of my entire life.
Very great thing. I don't know how to actually answer this. Answer. I had nothing. All I was going through my head was when you said meeting up at a bar, and I was like, fuck, that would be so cool if we live close enough that like every Friday we met up at the bar and just had a few drinks, or I came and visited you guys and had dinner or something. Yeah. That I would like in my life. Yeah. I'm very similar. I don't have like a lot of social things, but I do when I can do them, I do enjoy them. I love to have someone close that I could do that with, because I don't.
I mean, I can give one more perspective, and sorry to just ramble here, right? So I'm really into motorbikes. Not everyone knows that, but I own 3 motorbikes, and I also am part of a community garage. So where people can actually get together and just like do a little bit of wrenching and work on their motorbikes. And I love spending time there, but right now I don't have the time for it. Do I really not have the time for it? No, but it's my decision to not have the time for it. So we just have 24 hours in the day, and not really, right? Because we need to sleep, because otherwise we can't function the next day. So how much time do we really have available, right? It's not that much. And thus, you just have to set some priorities for yourself. And you need to come to terms with that. You can't do everything at once. And that is absolutely all right. Whereas I do love being at the community garage and doing a little bit of wrenching. The thing is that I can't do it right now because I want to be at my family. I want to take care of the business, Revive. And that is more important to me than being in that garage and doing a little bit of work on my motorbike. That doesn't mean that time won't come in the future again. But right now, I can't, and I don't want to. And I think it's very important to realize that. Because of that, it's not really a sacrifice. Other people would say like, oh, shit, I gave up on that because I didn't have the time for it. But I changed it I exchanged it for something that is more important to me, that gives me more in return, and that fills my life with more happiness and pleasure instead of then being in that garage. It still gives me pleasure, but let's just say it's kind of a hierarchy or a list of what gives me the most, and that is quite egoistic, but it is that, right? Why would you ever do something? Well, not why would you ever do something, but most of the time you do something because you enjoy it, right? And in that instance, it's just like, I have other priorities at the moment, and that's why I don't see anything else as a sacrifice. If I were, then I need to reconsider my priorities, and also I would to reconsider my entire approach to life in general, because even if it sounds shitty, you're still always under control over your entire life. And that also means that when you don't want to take care of your children, you could leave them. I know it sounds shitty, right? But don't take them as an excuse, and don't see that as something that is then, I don't know, the thing that you sacrifice other things for, that you actually wanted to do. That's not fair for the kids or for something that you actually needed to take care of.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people talk about like sacrificing to win and sacrificing for the sport of bodybuilding. And I really like the perspective of, it's like, I'm not sacrificing not eating out with like Charlotte. That's like my choice, because overall that means I'm going to get to stage and be really lean and shredded and be me, the happiest individual I can be. And that's not sacrificing like me and our relationship, because if I was to go and eat out with Charlotte and like do all these things, then I wouldn't be the happiest individual, and then that would reflect poorly on the relationship and the downstream effects. So I think a lot of the time we think we're sacrificing, like I think I'm sacrificing by being in a deficit, but I'm not. It's my choice and I'm enjoying it. Like the amount of time I've invested into like the business and into bodybuilding the last years, people might view that as like, oh, you didn't have much of a social life, like you've sacrificed a social life. So no, I've chosen to not do that because I've invested in something that I love and I want to grow. And maybe down the line, like you said, I can invest into those other areas. And again, I wouldn't be sacrificing the business or bodybuilding. It would be a choice. So yeah, I like the perspective of not viewing things as a sacrifice. And if you are, then maybe it's not the right choice for you.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important. Many people would be like, yeah, that's quite obvious, right? But not many people act that accordingly. They are still treating it as if they are sacrificing other things over the other. But in reality, it's just your decision. Maybe it's also shaped due to environmental and societal norms, that just because you like to do something and you can't really wholeheartedly say that this is something that you enjoy, because you are then being judged by other people around you, you're then not in a state of admitting that. Let's just say you have a certain fetish that you really can't just like, I don't know, wear as a badge when you're walking outside. But this is actually what you truly enjoy, right? And you are not willing to actually give that up because this gives you so much pleasure and joy and happiness in return. Right? It is most of the time just shaped by then your environment and the society. And I think it's absolutely all right to free yourself from that. I know it's hard. Sometimes you have to take that into consideration. You can't just live your life the way you would like to, because otherwise we would live in an anarchistic state. And that's not how our society works. But it is still your life, and you have to make the decisions that make you happy most of the time, right? This is just a generalization. And as long as you do that, it is all right to make some, I don't know, mistakes along the way, to give up on other things that other people would judge you for. And I think it's very, very freeing to realize that, and freeing to then be able to actually make the decisions that you truly wanted to do. And so many people look back at their life and regret that they didn't live the life they intended to live, but what other people deemed as the appropriate life for them.
And on that bombshell,
boom,
we get so philosophical lately.
Yeah,
it's the diet
it's
brain.
It's the prep.
Guys, thank you so much. I guess we should probably remind them of the ticket sale for the London seminar, because I think we have less than 20 tickets left now.
We have only 19 tickets left, and that is, I've made the calculation, less, or exactly 1/8 of all the seats available and all the tickets available. So you can do the math, how many people or how many seats we're actually having on location day. But it's not, there aren't many seats left open or many seats left to be taken. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be the event of the year. And I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I've said it before, it's a dream come true to get all of these guys in a room together, and it's invaluable to be there. So if you're going to be there, definitely comment below, let us know. And we hope to see some more faces there. And if you're on the edge of your seat and you're not sure, do it. You won't regret it. Like Pascal said, be selfish.
Yeah.
Be yourself first for once. Get a seat.
Cool. I guess I'll speak to you guys soon.
Bye. So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people. But each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.